All right. And like I said, I have an editor, so this will probably take a little while to come out as well. So he usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Okay, so I'm just going to do the intro.
Okay.
All right. All right. So today's guest on Trouble to Transformation, I have Jason Head, a 9-time convicted felon who has spent over 15 years in Texas prisons. From the age of 14, he struggled with some of the worst addictions, which landed him in juvies, youth villages, and even psychiatric hospitals and emergency rooms, which one, he died twice on the way to the hospital. Now he has got lawnmowers to Lamborghinis. He is the author of Prison to Periwinkles, and we'll get him to explain that name in just a second. And it's Hope Beyond Addiction. And he's a very successful owner operator of a landscaping company called Heads Up. And he continually, to this day, inspires others that it is never too late to start over. Welcome, Jason. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, I definitely read your book.
Thank you.
And it is so well done. It is very well crafted. It's short, sweet, and to the point. I'll tell you, if this was a blockbuster movie, I would want to see this on the big screen. It is so good. But yeah, so where did you want to start? From the beginning?
Yeah. We can start from the beginning. Yeah, so well, I'll just say this. My name is Jason Head. I'm 49 years old. I grew up in the Dallas area. I started using drugs at the age of 14. Um, Started smoking marijuana. By the time I was 15 years old, it escalated from the cocaine to smoking crack cocaine. And yeah, I had caught 13 felonies at the age of 15 years old, my freshman year. And it just, continued to get worse and worse as, as life went on. But it was just a crazy life, that I'm very thankful, that I turned my life around. And yeah, at the age of 15 years old, I was smoking crack cocaine, running around the worst parts of Dallas, chasing, crack. And for somebody that young, and it was it was a crazy life. It was a really crazy life, and I ended up in juveniles and
Mhm.
psychiatric hospitals, and they got a youth village down here called Dallas County Youth Village. It's been here since like the 1940s or something. Um, Switched high schools 3 times, back and forth from my parents. My parents got divorced when I was 13 years old. Um, and it just escalated. I was a good-hearted person, good man, but the addiction just ruled my life. You
Yeah.
know, I would do anything I got my hands on, from huffing Freon to meth to cocaine to crack to heroin to pills. I've been every aspect of it, and alcohol always in between. But um, yeah, by the time I was 23 years old, I had a stroke. I overdosed on coming back from Mexico, and I couldn't move the left side of my body for 3 days. I was in the hospital, and uh, when I went in there, I weighed 161 pounds, which right now I'm almost 260. So,
Wow.
that's almost a million, 99 pounds difference,
Yeah.
which is a lot, So took me 3 days just to do this, and still to this day, my smile ain't right.
Mhm.
And yeah, just it was a destructive life, man. Running from like you said just a while ago, running from the police, and um, flipping car. I ran for the Dallas and Mesquite police one time and flipped a Mustang 4 times, and lived through that, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but anyways, as time went on, I was going in and out of institutions.
Mhm.
From 1999 to 2018, I spent 15 years, 8 months. So I went in. It started out, small little bits, and then as it got a little worse every time. And this last time I did 6.5 years on a 10-year prison sentence for robbery, robbing a drug house.
Right.
right? And so I think, the last dope house that I robbed, because that was my MO. I was robbing drug houses and game rooms, anything that had to do with anything illegal.
That
So
takes a
the
lot of guts, man. When you rob a
yeah, yeah.
drug
And then,
houses. Yeah.
it usually keeps the police out of it. But this last
Mhm.
time, I think, God was like, "You big dummy, I'm gonna, you're fixing to go to sit down for a little bit," because 6 months before, no, no, no. Yeah, about 5 months before that, I had robbed another dope house and I went to kick in the door and I got shot with a 12 gauge shotgun and 4 times with a 40 caliber pistol. First two bullets hit me like I got my finger in the hole right here
Mhm.
and went through my lungs, collapsed one of my lungs and went out my back and in and out, in, out, in, out the back, and then 12 gauge right here.
Mhm.
And that's where I stopped breathing twice on the way to the hospital.
Wow.
And God let me make it through there. And
Mhm.
so when I get out about a week, well, after I was in ICU for like, uh, I was in intensive care for like 3 weeks. It took me, that long just to be able to walk. And I got hit in the upper torso. And so when they let me out, I'd say they kicked me out of the hospital, which I can't blame them because I didn't have insurance, and
Mhm.
I was just, I was not, I didn't care about life, so why should they care about me?
Yeah.
And but I was recovering on my mom's couch,
Mhm.
and there was a knock on the door, and at this time I'm on, pain pills, hydrocodones, the yellow, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And I'm a very addictive, guy, so I use the excuse. So of course, getting shot was very, very painful,
Mhm.
but it just gave me an excuse to, use, pills again or whatever. But um, yeah, so there was a knock on the door, and I answered the door. As soon as I did, there was a pistol right in my face,
Mm.
and like right to my head, and he pulled the trigger, and it jammed.
Mhm.
And we tussled on the ground. They ended up leaving, and come to find out 8 months later, while I was in jail, that same guy was on a federal conspiracy charge. It was a hit from the Aryan Brotherhood. One of the captains in the Aryan Brotherhood had paid another gentleman $9,000 to come kill me because he thought I robbed his dad and tied him up and all this and that. But actually, this time it wasn't me.
It was a mistaken
And
identity.
it was a mistaken identity,
Whoa.
and
Mhm.
for once, but he had that reputation.
Mhm.
And these guys knew who I was. I know who they were and everything. And they ended up getting one got 15 years and the other one got 18 years for attempted murder in the aid of racketeering activity, along with some RICO conspiracy acts that had to do with the Aryan Brotherhood and all this and that. But um, the other guy that actually did shoot me with a 40 caliber, he shot another guy in the back of the head 5 times, killed him. And that was 3 days after he shot me.
Mhm.
And so he's doing life sentence in Texas. The other two guys are in federal prison.
Right.
But at the end of the day, man, I forgive them all.
Mhm.
I mean, the other guy that did shoot me, I mean, I was robbing the dope house. Yeah, I put myself in that position. I'm not a victim. Even though he was doing something illegal, I was trying to take something that was his, right? Regardless. And the other two cats, it's just like, I forgive them. It's just like, at the end of the day, man, it's the common denominator and all the destructive chaos that run to everybody's life was
Mhm.
drugs, drug
Drugs.
addiction.
Yeah.
And I was just speaking at the Salvation Army the night before last, and I told them, but the common denominator and everything that's happened good in my life has been
Mhm.
my sobriety,
Yeah.
without a shadow of a doubt. Because for me, I am not a good drug addict. I am not a good criminal. Like,
Nobody is.
and I go
Yeah.
straight to I'm not the type that, messes around. Thank
Mhm.
God. That's why I did it, all the time. I wasn't gonna like just, lay on the couch and hope some dope comes and lands on my lap or something. I went and got it.
Yeah.
And by the grace of God, I'm still alive because there was a lot of people that was trying to kill me. And
Mhm.
but I made it,
Yeah. Well,
and
and I
so
I read in the book too, like that wasn't the only time that you had been shot at. The part about the farmer, that was a pretty dangerous
oh yeah, yeah,
situation.
yeah, the mental, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, Yeah, and so I mean, I had robbed a lot of people, and that individual was actually a meth cook. And
Mhm.
again, I was on his property, so at the end of the day, if he killed me, that was on me. But
Yeah.
like I said, I'm not a victim by no means. I put myself in that situation, so it just escalated and escalated. And then so even this last time when I got convicted, I did a 10-year sentence, and well, I got a 10-year sentence. I went down to prison. I started getting high some more. I was on a Ferguson unit, which is a unit that was built in not like 1960, some old red brick, but what we call a rock and roll unit, where a bunch of youngsters doing life sentences and stuff. In other words, it was rowdy. There was a
Right.
lot going on, and there was a lot of contraband, including dope and cell phones.
Right.
And so I had a job that was made me where I could move from place to place.
Mhm.
And so I was moving, cell phones and dope, and I got, I was getting high on Xanax and stuff like that. And I got caught with some K2 synthetic marijuana down there. And then they sent me to another unit down in South Texas in Beaumont. And I was on the disciplinary part of the wing, and still getting high. I was still getting high, get high out of my mind. I'm methamphetamines, K2, things of that nature. And here my mom is sending me money for all this.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
finally, Christmas Eve 2015, I was like, I'm walking around my cell, I'm high, and and of course I wasn't, singing jingle bells, I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? Because I wanted more dope and we were out. I'm like, what am I doing? Everything, so let me get this straight. You're in here in medium custody right now, which is disciplinary. We're locked down 23 hours a day.
Mhm.
You want more dope. You're in here for getting caught with dope on a maximum security prison. You're in prison because you got caught robbing a dope house.
Yeah.
You might got a problem here,
Mm.
And so I was like, you know what, man, it hit me just right then and there. I was like, man, I'm tired of spending my life in here, man. What am I doing? I'm tripping, And so I told myself, I said, you know what, tomorrow's Christmas Day. I'm fixing to give myself the best Christmas present ever.
Mhm.
And the next day, I woke up, and still like, I guess still, feeling the drugs or whatever. But that day, I was like, you know what? This is the new day of my life. This is the first day of my new life.
Yeah.
At that time I was 41 years old.
Yeah.
I had got At that time I had been locked up like 4 years, 4.5 years or something like that. And I wrote parole because I had got 2-year set offs back to back, right? And I wrote parole. I said, listen, everything that I've ever done in my life has been fueled by my chemical dependency, my drug addiction, everything that you see on this paper, whether it's a robbery, kidnapping, not on no kid or anything like that, aggravated assault, getting caught with, I fell asleep behind the wheel one time of a Mercedes that I bought with 8 ounces of meth in my lap. I woke up
Wow.
to a cop knocking on the door, and everything that you see on this paper, I said, has been fueled by my drug addiction. I said, I've been getting high in here. I said, man, I need help. What I'm saying? They seen that I got caught with dope. They're looking at it. I got a 2-year set off for that.
Mhm.
And so I was just real with them, and
Mhm.
boom, FI5, which in Texas means they send you to a drug rehabilitation center,
Mhm.
and so there ain't nothing. This was at this time, that was 2015, and I didn't get
Mhm.
out till 2018. So the wheels of justice down here is very slow. They're not trying to
Right.
let you go. And
Mhm.
so, but I went to that program. I finally caught chain over there,
Mhm.
and I applied myself,
Yeah.
and I was like, you know what? Because, I told myself, I was like, you know what, man, I'll be walking down the run, going to chow, whatever. And I said, and I'm talking to myself, I said, you know what, man, I'm gonna see what this old cowboy can do, I'm
Yeah.
not a cowboy, but
Yeah.
I just talk like that. And
Mhm.
and and I did, and I got to that place, and here I am. I worked my way up to what they call the house, which I'm over 200. There was like 800 inmates on this little rehabilitation place, and I was over one building, which was I'm over 260 something
Mhm.
men,
Right.
of all different races, of all different, backgrounds, of all
Mhm.
different gangs, of all different things, and
Mhm.
it showed me that I could be a leader because not everybody could hold that position
Right.
because they just couldn't because you had to talk to these inmates,
Mhm.
and kind of govern the place or whatever. And it showed me something about myself. And some of the guys in there were like, this, you're not the same person that I knew, And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And while we're on that subject, we're not going to be hanging out when we get out, and,
Mhm.
but in a respectful way. As a
Mm,
matter of fact, the
right.
guy that I told that to, and I
Mhm.
told that guy to one of my friends that we used to rob dope houses. I seen him down there and he was just on Channel 4 News running from the police. He got shot in the neck
Oh,
from
wow.
the police. Yeah, he
Yeah.
just called me the other day from Dallas County Jail.
Mhm.
He's got my book in there. And
Mhm.
I tried to tell him, I said, brother, we got it. I love you like a brother. I said, man, but I just don't want to be around anybody from my past. You got to change your people, places, and things, all the way
100%.
around.
Yeah.
100%, and you got to be stingy with your recovery
Yeah.
because don't nobody care about your life more than you do. You know what I'm saying? Or your mom, because she did for me, anyways.
Mhm.
And so I did that, man, and I talked the talk about it, and I walked the walk when I got out. And
Mhm.
God really showed up in my life, man. So I got out when I was 44 years old,
Mhm.
and during that time before I got out, I said, you know what, I'm going to start me a landscaping business because
Mhm.
I knew I wanted to start me a business, right?
Mhm.
But I never done anything legit in my life. Like never, I had a truck driving job for like 3 months, but I was so methed out. I thought the GPS, I thought the helicopters were following me and everything else. I
Mm.
was not a good truck driver. And
Mhm.
and so I get out, I was going to start the landscaping business, but I couldn't because they put me on a GPS monitor for 15 months, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And so I had one on my hip and one on my ankle,
Mhm.
and it was the most serious kind you could be on. So I had to make I got to go to the gas station at 10:15 on
Mhm.
the corner of Military Parkway and 635. From
Yeah.
there, I'm leaving. You know what I'm talking about? It was like serious, and so I couldn't start my company. In between that time, I couldn't get a job nowhere. I still had to have a job, but I
Mhm.
couldn't get a job at of this fitness place called Planet Fitness, being a custodian on third shift. I couldn't get a
Mhm.
job at driving a forklift. It was hard, but thank God I had my mom. She's like, well, just wait
Mhm.
until you get off and you start your business, and so that's what I did. And so April 25th of 2019. And so my mom and dad helped me out with a truck, and I was blessed
Mhm.
enough to have that because I
Mhm.
really didn't deserve it. And then my fiance, Christy, she bought me a lawnmower. And I started my life at 44 years old with a dream. And
Yeah.
and and I didn't have a clue about nothing about landscaping. I
Mhm.
jumped in the car, a car, so to speak, and didn't know how to drive it. I didn't know anything about landscaping,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
so yeah, so during and I know it's not about all the money and stuff
Mhm.
like that, but I've done really well for myself, and I thank God
Mhm.
that all my dreams have come true. I've always been a car guy. I love cars and motorcycles and vehicles, and every car that I've ever dreamed of having, I
Mhm.
got it. And so um I've said
Yes.
it before. Like I said it before. I think in my book, one of my proudest moments was walking into the Lamborghini dealership
Mhm.
and putting $75,000 down and
Mhm.
on a $266,000 car in my
Mhm.
name. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? It probably wasn't the wisest decision because they depreciate big time and everything, but my dream came true.
Mhm.
And I remember sitting in traffic on the way home,
Mhm.
and I had tears in my eyes because I was because what I'm talking about, like people are pulling up and going, yeah,
Yeah.
little kids, the moms are
Mhm.
rolling down the window for the little kids, it was just a dream come true for me, and I never, a couple years before, I never dreamed that I'd be in a position of
Mhm.
that, or much
Mhm.
less be in this house that I'm in right now that I
Yeah.
bought, with my money and furnished everything in it that's paid for with my money.
Mhm.
That's a feeling like no other,
A legit
and
money. Legit
legit money,
money. Yeah.
and so, at started my life at 44 years
Mhm.
old, and then, I'm 49 now.
Mhm.
And in between then, I've made, over $1 million, like
Mhm.
1.2, something like
Yeah.
that. That's what I've actually made. This last year, I've done right at 1 million in business, but it's again, it's not about the money. You know what I'm saying? Like, I believe God has a bigger purpose for each and every one of us. You know what I'm saying? Because money
Exactly.
don't, it makes
Yeah.
your life more comfortable. You know what I'm saying? And to a certain extent, it's allowed me to do what I want to do. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I believe that God has a purpose for my life, just like he does yours.
Yes.
And I believe that's why we're here right
Absolutely.
now,
Absolutely,
and
Jason. And that's the whole point of this platform, Trouble to Transformation,
yeah,
is that we need to give our stories, our unique experiences, a way deeper meaning. There's
yeah,
so many people. I pray that you never get sick of telling your story.
yeah.
You
Thank
know,
you. And you too.
thank you. Yeah.
Because the audience that we're speaking to has
Mhm.
a story waiting to be told,
Oh
you
my God,
know?
you took the words right out of my mouth. I
Yeah.
have so many people that
Yeah.
are in some pretty dark places right now. I mean, they're in recovery. However, they're still living behind that veil of
Yeah.
shame. They
Yeah.
don't feel worthy. They feel like they're in
Yes.
this constant repetitive cycle of like punishment in a sense
Yeah.
that they're not deserving. And here we are to tell them, no, you do deserve a better life.
You do deserve it.
And those
And don't think,
stories, untold stories, why? What a
yeah.
waste.
Yeah.
What a
Yeah, that's
waste.
the whole reason. Like they're writing, they're just like you.
Mhm.
You're in the, what I'm talking about. You wrote in a book and you hadn't even known it yet. You know what I'm talking about? Just like them. You're in the process of
Yeah.
writing your book.
Yeah.
I was telling the guys and girls the other day at the Salvation Army,
Mhm.
it's just like, I'm here because you have a story. You know what I'm talking about? Like I'm telling my story. I was right there where you're at. I was right there where you're at. And trust me, and getting out of prison, for the fifth time, my self-esteem was like this big.
Yeah.
My self-esteem was like small,
Yeah.
and so now today, it's just like it's the total opposite in a humble way, not an
Yes.
arrogant, cocky way, tomorrow because
No,
I
God,
know.
no. I do not sense arrogance at all from you, Jason. Like,
Thank you.
yeah, no, and you
And
deserve all of your success because what you're doing now is you're teaching people, giving them the confidence, the
yeah,
inspiration, to forgive themselves
yeah,
and be successful themselves. Because
yeah,
I do believe that on your crew, do you not hire some of the guys too that have also
yeah,
been in some trouble?
yeah, yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, the guy, my last project manager, he
Mhm.
was homeless for 10 years. Uh,
Mm.
he was a heroin addict, a junkie.
Mhm.
His name's Jeremy. Man, super good guy. One of the best hearted people you ever meet.
Right.
He don't work for me no more. He went on to get his
Mhm.
master's electrician license,
Oh, wow,
which
good
I'm
for
not mad at
him.
him. I'm not, I
Mhm.
want, he's like, man, I can't be the man working for the man. I said,
Mhm.
brother, I feel you. Trust me. Like, man, go get it, brother. You know what I'm talking
Mhm.
about? And so, but he still works for me,
Mhm.
hooking up my lights and stuff like that.
Mhm.
One of my main guys, Miguel, he's from El Salvador, but he, here now. He went to prison 3 times or one time for three
Mhm.
DWIs, but he
Yeah.
don't drink or nothing anymore. He's been with me 4.5 years.
Mhm.
One of my new project managers, he just got out of prison, I think 4 or 5 months ago.
Mhm.
And so so far so good, man. But everybody deserves a second chance. If any of you guys out there are listening right now and you think that you're not worthy, or you think you got a fear of losing again or being a failure again, you know what? Listen, the one of the biggest things that you can do is let the is the worst things that you can do is let fear hold you back. Because you know what?
Yes. Mhm.
Just go for it. Go for it. Take that jump, take that leap. And whatever the situation may be, if you can think it, it can happen. Because I'm gonna tell you, the law of attraction is
Oh,
real.
wow, yes. And
The
you
law of
actually had a
attraction is,
vision board. You could, well,
yeah,
not, yeah, you kind of had a vision board. You even had the truck picked out.
yes, yeah, in my head, in
Mhm.
my head. And then when I got that truck wrap, which was in my book,
Mhm.
I mean, it come out like I was like, you know what, man, I want to have one of the sickest, the nicest, and one of the
Mhm.
sickest landscape trucks out there.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I don't have that in particular truck no more, but I got another, nice one, but that truck was set up for a different thing. We don't do lawn maintenance
Mhm.
anymore, but it was one of the sickest, coolest looking trucks. I was
Yeah.
so proud of that truck. I used to drive around in that truck,
Mhm.
and I wrapped it, all professional. It looks
Yeah,
like I've
I
been in
saw
business
it.
30 years, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't have a clue what I was doing. At that point in time,
Yeah.
like I was still learning. Again, I jumped in a
Mhm.
car that I did not know how to drive, but I
Mhm.
learned along the way. I
Yes.
learned
Yeah.
along the way. Just like this roofing company that we started
Mhm.
4 months ago. We just got
Mhm.
2 new roofs over the last 2 days, right? Big, big, nice, big roofs. You know, And I jumped in that car, not knowing a clue what I was doing, but I'm learning every single day. You know
Yeah.
what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? I am not a rocket scientist. I am not like, got a lot of common sense. And
Yeah.
anybody out there that's ran that streets and chased that dope and done anything like that, you can do anything that I'm doing. You can do anything that
Yeah.
Rhonda's doing. You can do anything you
Exactly.
put your mind to. And you don't
Hmm.
got to be smart. All you got to do is stay disciplined and want
Hmm.
it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And put forth the effort to do it and just stay consistent with it.
Yeah.
And think, and before you know it, you look back and you're like, is this really happening? You
Well,
know what I'm talking
guess
about?
what? Guess what's on my vision board? I put it on there about 4.5 years ago, 5 years. Take a guess. We're doing it right
Uh,
now.
huh?
We're doing it right now. The
Oh yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I swear to God, on my vision board, I had equipment
And look at
and
you.
like
You some
phrases that said how to interview people and whatnot.
yeah. And look at yeah, like
And here we are, right?
yeah.
So you're
It's
right. The
good.
law of
Like I'm telling you,
attraction.
this was predestined a long time ago. You know what I'm talking about?
Totally.
It's
Yeah.
all God's plan. You know what I'm talking about? And I'm telling you, believe in the universe. You know what I'm talking about? And
Yes.
don't let for anybody that's listening or going through, and you don't think that you can do something. Promise you can do anything that you put your mind to.
Yeah.
You can do anything, and I'm talking about dream big, because your dreams will come true, right? And so
Yes.
I know now not to put a governor on how much you know what I'm talking about, like
Hmm.
whether it's in business, like today I was discussing with my fiance, I was like, no, let's take it to this level. You know what I'm saying? With
Yeah.
this level, you know what
Hmm.
I'm talking, it can be a whole nother, you know, and so dream big, I'm telling you, I believe in the law of attraction. I'm
Yes.
telling you, in the universe, you put it, you speak it, you feel it,
Hmm.
it's gonna come to you. I'm telling you.
Well, there's actually, believe it or not, a lot of people think that that's woo woo, the
Yeah,
spiritual
yeah.
woo woo stuff, but there is actually a science behind it. There's something what we call the reticular activation system, the RAS. And what happens is when you have vision boards and you say affirmations and you say it and you speak it into existence, what actually happens is your subconscious mind goes to work behind the scenes and starts to make things happen. Because we are what we think about. What we think about, we
I'm
bring
telling
about.
you.
So boom, there it is. And I,
Yeah,
I love it, Jason, because you're like, see what this old cowboy can do. And it made me
yeah,
think about the old adage, you can't teach a dog new tricks, an old dog new tricks. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's BS. Cause
yeah,
I'm 51 and I'm just starting to reinvent my life as well. And you're
yeah,
never too late to start. Never. And
yeah.
the shame, and the thing is with shame, like shame is like there's guilt, right? There's guilt that I did something bad, but then there's shame is like, oh, I am a bad person. And a lot of people can't get from behind that shame. And shame is a disconnect. It keeps us hidden. It keeps us hiding. We don't want to connect to our community and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
not only are you a business owner operator, but the amount of work you put in, even just going to schools, and like you said, you were at the Salvation Army, like,
Yeah.
wow, like that is impressive. That's a lot of work.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. And it keeps me busy.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, man, time just goes by so fast. But compared to when I wasn't doing anything, but
Hmm.
it's just like but yeah, I feel so blessed,
Yeah.
and I feel like um the speaking engagements,
Hmm.
and I think that's even going to take off even more, because I believe the
Yeah.
big men upstairs and then other individuals, just like yourself, just like how we
Hmm.
met, it's just
It's a community. Yes.
mhm.
It's a
And
community
so,
growing.
but thank you very much. I
Mhm.
feel blessed, and I believe the
Yeah.
reason that I told these young kids the other day. As a matter of fact, I got pulled over on the way to speak to these kids in Sherman, Texas, and
Hmm.
I got a Mercedes, brand new,
I saw it.
and then
It's
of course
beautiful.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I hate putting my license plate on the front because it just takes away from the car.
Hmm.
And of course, I don't want to put anything on the windshield because it just clutters everything up.
Mm,
And of course, I was in the wrong, and he pulled me over, and I was like,
mm,
I told Christian, I was like, golly, I know he got
yeah.
me for this. And sure enough, that's what it was. And
Hmm.
and so if he gave me a ticket, or anything, I couldn't be mad at anybody except myself. He's only doing his job. But I told him, he's like, where you headed? I was like, over to this alternative school to speak to these young kids. And he's like, really?
Mm,
What about? I was like, well, I spent, almost 16 years in prison behind drug addiction. And, I just want to
mhm,
tell him about, making choices and, to try to make the right ones. And he's like, you know what? He's like, man, I respect you so much for that. He said, I had to arrest a 14-year-old kid last
mm.
week for murder.
Oh,
Right.
dear
And come to
God.
find out, this same kid that he was talking about of some of these kids' friends in this
Oh,
alternative school. Right. There was
wow.
14-year-old girls in there that already had babies and stuff too.
Oh, man.
And they were so receptive, man. It was just like one of
Yeah.
the best, it was probably only like 55, 60 kids in
Mhm,
there,
mhm.
maybe 70. And it was just like one of the best speaking engagements I ever had because
Yeah.
they were like, so cool that, and
Mhm,
afterwards they were just asking questions and and two of them, and I'm talking about these, one of them's 15 years old and is going to NA, has already,
mhm,
trying to overcome her addiction,
mhm,
and so like it just I believe I'm exactly, and like I said, all the the materialistic things don't mean nothing. They're nice and everything, but the
mhm,
the bigger purpose on this earth. Somebody told me last night. And this guy, he's been living in Korea. He reached out to me. He's like, and
mhm,
this guy generally, at first I was like, man, what's his motive or whatever?
mhm,
Because people try to sell you insurance and everything else these days. But we met him, me and Christy met him at a steakhouse last night, and he told me, he's like, you know what? And this guy, man, he impressed me, man. Like he's a millionaire now.
mhm,
Was an ex-drug addict. He travels the world, lives in Korea, blah blah blah,
mhm,
Hawaii, everything. And he told me, he's like, you know what? He's like, one of the things that he told me was God's gift to us was life.
mm.
It's what we
Yeah.
do with our life
Mhm.
that is our gift to Him. You know what I'm talking
Yes.
about?
Yeah.
And so I was like, whoa, you know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about? I was like, man, that hit home right there. It's like,
Yeah.
because it ain't, we can, be as successful or whatever material
Mhm.
thing, but what are we really doing? Because I'm gonna tell you,
Yeah.
I don't think having all the material things and the money has made me
Mhm.
any happier than when I just got out and I was trying to get my life together,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But when you have a purpose,
Yeah.
and you're really trying to genuinely help other people,
Mhm.
man, I don't think there's a feeling in the world like. And then plus, and then when you're doing that, God
Mhm.
shines and allows your life to even prosper
Yeah.
that much more,
Yeah.
and so.
Yeah. Have you
It's
ever
just
heard of The Hero's Journey?
I have not.
Yeah, so it's like Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey, and basically what it is going into the belly of the whale or to in the trenches of hell and then coming out on the other side. It's called The Hero's Journey because now there's a purpose at the other end of that, because really, would you be making that much of an impact in your story if you hadn't lived these experiences? Even like I've heard so many people even say that when they were in therapy, that when they're sitting there across the desk from somebody who's very academic, they're reading out of a textbook, they didn't connect, they didn't resonate. They want people like you and me to talk to
Yeah,
because we've
yeah,
lived it.
yeah,
We've lived it. And that's why for my own experience, I want to take my work into men's penitentiaries,
yeah,
and people ask me like, oh my God, why would you want to go there? And I'm like, well, why wouldn't I? Why
yeah.
wouldn't I? I mean, I've lived that life. I was involved with organized crime for over 10 years. And then I went to the oil field. So it was always a very male dominated industry.
Yeah.
And I resonate with those men in there. And one thing that you said in your book, Jason, that really hit home for me is there's a lot of really good people in there.
Mhm.
They've made a couple bad decisions with those controlling substances. I
Yes,
love that you said that.
yes,
Being charged with controlled substance. No, it's controlling
yeah,
substances, because anybody that's never been addicted doesn't quite understand
yeah,
how much that takes over.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's brutal.
I know some of the people that I associate with today that I've met along the way, my
Hmm.
customers, whether it's these multimillionaire, blah, blah, blah. I know some of them in the back of the head is like, why am I doing that? Because everybody in there, they did that. They did the crime. They need to do the time. And that's true. However, being under the influence of a controlling substance, you do
Mm,
things that you normally wouldn't do.
that's so
You
true.
know, and just
Yeah,
like me, man, I've got a super good heart. I help anybody I could. But, back then, you know, man, I was a different person. I was a different
totally.
person
Yeah,
because it numbs you, it takes everything away, and the only thing that you can focus on, because the serious hardcore cocaine, crack, meth, heroin, that stuff will grab you. And I've seen, varsity cheerleaders at the end, first of the year, at the end of the year, they're prostitutes on the corner. I've
absolutely.
seen,
Yeah.
I've seen everything, and because it does not judge anybody.
Hmm.
And so, that's, I told, because from the age of 14 to 44, it controlled my life.
Yeah.
That's 30 years that I wasted. Because when I wasn't physically in prison, I still was in prison out here,
Yeah.
and yeah. And so now I believe it's my purpose
Hmm.
to show others that, man, you can change around, and it's never too late.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't start my life till I was 44 years old with a dream and didn't have a clue what I was doing. I had faith, and I knew that I was not going back to prison. I knew the number one thing that was going to keep me away from everything else
Hmm.
is my sobriety and
Yeah.
staying away from them old people, places, and things.
Yeah.
A lot of people reach out to me that are still out there doing things and like, hey man, I need money for a hotel. And sometimes I cave in and I give it to them because I feel bad or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
But if I do, if I give them advice or I kind of love on them a little bit, it's going to be from a distance. It's going to be right like this
Yeah.
far, you know what I'm talking about? Through
Yeah.
a telephone. And because I don't want nothing to do with you unless you're, talking about going to work, making some money, helping other
Hmm.
people.
Yeah.
Because birds of a feather flock together, man. And I'm stingy with my recovery. And anybody that's listening, you got to be the same way, because
Absolutely.
with the old
Yeah.
saying, if you go to the barbershop
I
enough
was gonna
times, you're
say
going to
that.
eventually get a
Yeah.
haircut.
Yeah. So
And that
true.
means going around the same people thinking that you're not going to do the same thing, but they
Hmm.
are. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I don't care what they mean to you. And if they really had your best interest at heart, they would
Yeah.
say, man, you need to, just, get away from us. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they'll say misery loves company,
It's
and
so true though. And I've
yeah,
said those words to some of my peeps as well. I'm like, you keep hanging around there. And they're like, no, no, I'm good. I can say no. I can say no. I'm like, you can say no, but maybe on the 10th time, you're going to
yeah,
say yes. It's
yeah,
only a matter of time,
yeah,
So you're absolutely right. People, places, and things, you do have to like change your environment. And there's a saying about that. You cannot heal in the same environment that made you sick,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and that's another reason is like you said, on that 10th time you might break down. And that's another reason I don't drink, because in NA we consider
Yeah.
alcohol a drug. For me, because I know me. I've done put in the tape. I say the tape,
Mhm.
I'm old school, VCR, put in the tape. But
That's fine.
what I mean by that is I've done played it out 4 or 5
Mhm.
times.
Yeah.
I've said, how many times that I said I was gonna stop using drugs, I'm just gonna drink,
Mhm.
after a OE 40, and
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
there goes the neighborhood. What I'm
Yeah.
talking about? And it's just over just a destructive, and so for me, no alcohol,
Yeah. Me
and I'm
neither.
not even gonna
Yeah.
roll the dice, because that's what it is.
Mhm.
If I try to tell myself now these days, and which a couple of times I have, you know what, you can just take a couple of tokes off a joint. You can
Mhm.
just chill to relax you out a little bit at the end of the day. Well,
Mhm.
no, that's not gonna work for me, because I'll like it so much that I will wake up soon as I won't do my push-ups in the morning. I will get high, and right then and there I'll have the most important phone call of my life from somebody that I really want to connect with, and I'll be like,
Mm.
"Uh," you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? I
Yeah.
know me, you know what I'm talking about? And then
Yeah.
by noon, I'm gonna smoke another one, and I'm gonna lose control, and then it's just gonna escalate and escalate.
Yeah.
And so, but there's some people that can control their life, like,
Mhm.
there's some people that smoke weed and drink and they're cool and they can control their life. I'm
Mhm.
not that guy. You know what I'm saying? And I'm assuming probably you're not either, or Bo, and a
Yeah.
lot of other addicts. And
Yeah.
so you gotta realize what your limits are. I know
Yeah.
me, and so, if you're listening,
Yeah.
you gotta know you.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you that person?
Well, and
So
and like you said, like the quality of life. I don't want to walk around with a gray cloud hanging over my head. Like I'm in school, I need to use my brain,
yeah,
and the thing is too, like right now in our class, we're going through what the human development. Where we're looking at ages from 0 to 6, 7 to 15, and so forth. And these are really, really crucial times for development,
Yeah,
cognitive development with kids,
yeah,
and now it's legal. They can go to the local dispensary. And I mean, obviously they have to be of age, but still, we know how that works. I mean, their friends are
yeah,
getting
yeah.
it for them, and now we've got such an epidemic too with the fentanyl crisis.
Hmm.
And just recently, too, there was our local Kamloops RCMP sent out an alert. Now they're finding benzodiazepines in vapes.
Crazy.
Like it's an epidemic, and we really got to think about that too when these kids are experimenting with just smoking weed. Well, it's not just smoking weed anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, no, it's dangerous. And I
it
know me
is.
today, especially I'll die if I go back out there. I know
Mm-hmm.
me. If I don't get a life sentence. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just so many guys that, back to, what we were saying. Oh, and it's crazy because I went and spoke to, the cover of my book. That's in
Mm-hmm.
front of a unit called Coalfield, which is the biggest unit in the state of Texas. And
Okay.
we went back in there and I spoke to like 500 inmates. That facility holds 6,000. But I
Wow.
went back in there because, we spoke to about 500 people that were a part of this group that's fixing to get out. They
Mm-hmm.
got convicted when their brain wasn't fully developed. Like
Yeah.
16, 15, 16 years old, they got convicted of, of this and that,
Mm-hmm.
and they're fixing to go home. And we was just telling them like, um, but anyways, they just had passed a law about I know their thinking wasn't all the way there, but
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, to encourage them because I mean someone will be locked up 25, 30 years and they're fixing to go home and they don't have a clue. They got locked up when they were a kid. So this is all they
Mm-hmm.
know.
Oh
But yeah,
man,
going
that's
back to
heartbreaking.
there's a lot of good guys in prison. There
Mm-hmm.
really is.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had to guess, I'm not, I don't know the statistics or however you say
Mm-hmm.
it, but I would say 96% of people in prison is in there from drug abuse of one way or the other, either
Yeah.
drugs or drug abuse. Making one bad decision, and
Mm-hmm.
I know probably six that I can think of that are in there for murder, robbing drug houses, got capital life sentences, being under the influence of PCP, heroin, crack, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
robbing somebody, and it went bad. Yes, they did the crime, they did the time, they're still down there doing it, and they're never going home.
Mm-hmm.
But man, some of these guys walk around with Bibles in their back pocket, man, and like there's some of
Yeah.
the best people, and just they'll never have another opportunity in life.
Yeah.
Me, I thank God because I put my
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times I carried pistols and got into shootouts and everything
Mm-hmm.
else, robbing. I'm so thankful that I didn't ever kill nobody because
Yeah.
that was not me. I'm not a
Yeah.
killer. It would have
Mm-hmm.
been, like I would,
But
and just there's
accidents happen.
accidents happen, and
Yeah.
what I'm saying,
Accidents
there's
happen.
no oops. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, I made a mistake. There ain't same thing with
No.
intoxicated manslaughter.
Yeah.
Do not drink and drive. I got
Yeah.
friends. A friend of mine just got out doing 14 years. And it killed his best friend. It was an accident. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? But they didn't. The judge didn't.
Yeah.
You don't get no second chances, man. Like that
Yeah.
accident was. Well, you're going to prison. You got a 20-year sentence. You just got to doing 14 years
Yeah.
on it. He's out doing really good now.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, being under the influence of a controlling substance, whether it's alcohol or
Mm-hmm.
anything else, can
Mm-hmm.
literally change your life in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And even some of those guys that are still inside that are doing life, they can still find purpose in their existence, and do the work, do God's work and help
Yeah,
other people that are coming in, and
yeah,
maybe helping them with the skills when they're on their way out. And that's kind of where I want to come in. I want to develop workshops to help those individuals learn some just basic life
yeah.
skills, even with
That's good.
conflict resolution. I don't know if you follow a lady by the name of Fritzy Horstman. Have you ever heard of her? The
No, I don't think I have.
it's called the Compassion Prison Project, and she is in the States. So she goes around to all of the maximum security prisons all over the United States, and they do what they call step inside the circle. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Oh, I'm going to send you a link, Jason. It's a very
Okay.
short video. She's on Instagram. I've recently reached out to her and she got back to me right away and gave me the curriculum that they do. But anyways, so it's called the ACEs, and it's basically like a scorecard with all of these different traumas and childhood adversities that people have experienced. So she reads them all out. And after she reads each one of them, she says, step inside the circle. And then at the end of it, you have all these inmates that are literally standing in a tiny circle together. And basically, what it shows is that all of those incarcerated people have experienced childhood trauma.
Oh,
And
yeah.
now, what do we do to the
That's
most traumatized individuals? Is we incarcerate them and we dehumanize them, and then when they get out, like you said, they can't find a job. Nobody wants to give them a chance, and,
yeah,
there are good people in there and they do
yeah.
deserve a second chance. So, it's gonna be a lot of work, but I'm ready to dig in
That's
deep.
good and dig in
Yeah.
because a lot of them guys need that,
Mhm.
and so yeah, you can, if you just get to, five guys, them five guys can get to 25, them 25 can get to,
Yeah.
and like, it's a guy, there was one guy in there, his name was Big G, and this guy had a capital life sentence for, he got convicted when he was 17 years old out of Houston, Texas. And when he was my neighbor and we used to cook, rice together and everything. And he told me, he's like, this guy was a man, he was a, big, real good looking guy, man. Just, had his, his brain was sharp and like he looked like a pro athlete and stuff like this. And he used to walk around with his Gideon Bible in his back pocket, man. And he had God live, he was, he had such a peace about him. And here I am. I was still getting high at the time, right? And
Mm.
he's like, bro, he's like, what are you doing? He said, man, I will give anything, brother. He's fighting for his life. He goes to the law library every day.
Mm.
But he did it. Of course, he's still fighting for his case or whatever, but
Mhm.
he's like, man, I'll give anything to be in your shoes, bro. He's like, I would do anything. What you're doing, you're tripping, man. You're getting high. You got a family that loves you, that puts money on your books. You got a parole attorney. I don't have parole. I can't even see parole. Bro, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Take advantage of that, and
Mm.
even though I didn't listen to him at the time, and I think back, I'm like, man, some of these guys would literally cut off their leg to be able to have a chance at freedom again.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would. I know that sounds kind of crazy off the wall stuff, but
Mhm.
like, literally to rather spend my life in there around, it's just another world, man. And
Yeah. Yeah.
but
And then in the book too, I did read that sometimes when there's other inmates that know that you're on the way out, there
oh
can be
yeah,
some resentment there too. And you actually have to, your life is
yeah,
potentially in danger when some of those guys know you're on the way out.
yeah. And so because some of them guys, just like on some of them units, they and the I'll never forget telling some of my friends, which
Mm.
are never going home, that I'm going
Mhm.
home. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Just the look in their eyes, man, just like,
Right.
it's just like the air is just let out of them. You know what I'm talking about? Because,
Mm.
you've done developed that would just, well, I can't compare it to me and my fiance. We've been together, you know what I'm saying? This is a different kind of
Mhm.
love, but, having one of your best friends and all of a sudden you're never going to see him again. You know what I'm talking about? That you spend years and years together and y'all develop
Yeah.
a tight friendship and all of a sudden I'm gone, man.
Yeah.
Good luck, But anyways, man, that's why I'm so passionate about that because
Mhm.
everybody that I know that's in there that's did their crime or whatever under the influence,
Mhm.
just like myself, you
Yeah.
know. That's why you click on my Facebook page, you see Satan up the door right off the bat. I represent it, man. And I probably there's a lot of people out here that don't understand. Like,
Mhm.
why does this dude keep talking about this? I know they don't necessarily say that. Some have,
Yeah.
but they don't understand. They really don't understand
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I
it's
totally
not for them,
I
and I
do.
don't care.
Yeah, I
It's
totally
the
understand it because I mean, I was addicted to those drugs for a long time too. And I mean,
yeah.
obviously, I mean, that got me into a life of crime. I mean, unless you're doing the drugs, you don't generally get into crime,
Yeah.
unless you're okay with doing those drugs. And the thing is, along the way too, like you meet a lot of people that I don't want to say that they're born evil, but there is some
Yeah.
really dark
Oh yeah.
individuals that dehumanize their fellow
Yeah.
man, and
Yeah.
they do not care what
No.
happens in
And
there.
yeah. No, and there's a lot of them in there too. Yeah,
Yes.
there's a lot of men. I've had cellies I had one celly on Ferguson unit that he was in
Mm,
there for, and I didn't realize it until 6 months after I've been in
mhm,
there with a cell. And
mhm.
I started finding blood on my razors and blood, you know what I'm talking about?
Mm.
Started to find out he was in there for spreading HIV
Oh,
intentionally. Yeah. And
wow.
so
Yeah.
just a evil individual.
Mhm. Yeah.
I got out of that cell. The next cell I went in, oh, it was a guy from Arlington, Texas that
Mhm.
raped and killed a lady
Oh,
that was in the same apartment complex that that lived in
mhm.
at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, you know, tomorrow's just like, yeah, there's a whole lot of piece of craps in there too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good people in there, but
Yeah.
there is some that you know, I mean, anybody that did the crime, they got to do the time.
Right.
But you know, some people, you know, there is some good-hearted people in there
Yeah.
that wish
And
they had.
what about the gangs, Jason? Like I don't think you were actually involved with any gangs, were you? But
No, I never.
no.
I mean, you know, I'm tatted up. I probably,
Mhm,
it might look like it to some people, but
mhm.
no, I never was. I never.
Yeah.
I believe, you know, it's so, um, it's so, you know, it's so, you know, everybody's over here. The whites over here, the
Mhm,
blacks over here,
mhm.
the Bloods over here, the Crips over here, the Tonga blacks over here, the Aryan brother over here. It's so segregated. It's the word I was looking for,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
it's just like for me, you know, man, I want to be around the good people. And, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? And
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to do that on maximum
Mhm.
security units in Texas or a lot of places because there's rules set in place by the inmates. You know what I'm
Right.
talking about? But that's one thing I also learned because about myself in there that, you know, so many people, it started showing me something about myself, you know,
Mhm.
because I associated with everybody, right?
Mhm.
Black, white, Mexicans, Bloods, Crips,
Mhm.
you know, Mandingo warriors, Aryan Brotherhood, you know, this and that. There's a lot. That's the most negative, hateful place I've ever been to. But it also showed me that, like, because me, there's piece of craps in every race, but
Right.
there's good people in every race.
I
You
agree.
know,
Yeah, I
there's
agree.
good people in every race, and there's a piece of
Mhm.
craps in every race. You know, and so it's me. You know, I've become pretty good at analyzing and checking out people, you know,
Mhm.
because me, I want to be around genuinely good people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I want to be around genuinely good people, you know, uh like my best friend, my fiance, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She is a genuinely a good, you know,
Yeah.
like me, you know, I've lived a certain way for a long time, man, and I still see my faults, you know, like I
Mhm.
still see I'm still rough around the edges, so to speak. You know what I'm talking about? I'm not perfect, you know,
Mhm.
and you know, I can get a little attitude-ish
You know
sometimes,
how many times I have to bite my lip in counseling?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
so
get
I'm
it.
ready to check somebody or, you know,
Mhm.
I'm talking about include them in, and I gotta check myself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because and I gotta sit back and even with customers or anything else, man. But um I've been blessed enough to have a partner in life, man, that you
Yeah,
know is
absolutely.
my voice of reason
Yeah.
slash counselor
Ooh, I love
slash,
it. Good on, yeah, good on Christy. I love it. And she wrote the
yeah,
foreword in your book, which actually brought tears to my eyes. It was so good.
yeah.
And, and Jason, I was actually going to ask you that question too, like now that you've reformed your life and you're doing really well and things are much, much different. Do you find that there's some residual from that lifestyle, like even just paranoia, PTSD? Um,
No, really, I don't. You know, I
yeah.
think Christy has more because she's heard about everything in my life than I do.
Yeah.
I just don't, you know, well, I would say this sometimes, like, there was a guy that posed as a customer that tried to get me out to somewhere a while back, you know, and he tried to tell me that I owed him $18,000. But listen, before I sniffed this out,
Yeah.
before I say this ain't, I don't do business in that area right there. Somebody's trying to
Mm.
get me out there and they want the boss or Jason to come out there
Oh,
specifically.
yeah.
And I'm like, no, something's up with this. And come to find out, it was this guy and
Mhm,
that you know he was strung out on and drugs and stuff like that.
mhm.
And but no, I don't. As far as anybody after me, no.
Yeah.
But I do. You know, I watch. You know,
Mhm.
I watch and like I'm very. You know, like Christy yesterday, she was selling a Louis Vuitton purse on Facebook Marketplace or something.
Mhm.
The people wanted to meet her at a mall over here at a time, and I'm looking at the Facebook. There ain't no profile on there. All three of
Oh,
their friends in
yeah.
common are game rooms. You know,
Yeah.
game rooms were a bunch of meth and illegal activities. So I'm like, Christy wouldn't have seen that. You know what I'm talking about? And I said,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
hell
that's
no.
kind of where I was going with that too, because since I've been in that lifestyle, people call me paranoid, but I'm like, oh no, I have situational awareness.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah,
You know,
I
and
know the difference between that and paranoia because I've been paranoid.
yeah,
I do know the difference, but I think that nowadays too, because violence and crime is escalating.
it's crazy.
It is getting crazy. And, and I always made a joke, hey, if you want your place burglar proof, just call me because, um,
Yeah,
I always
yeah,
make sure that windows locked, doors locked, check
yeah,
twice.
yeah. No,
Because
for
yeah,
real. Like,
it is a reality. And I don't want to live in this bubble because it is a reality. And we do have to
yeah,
be
it is.
careful. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And even though I had people out, to kill me, whatever, I think
Mm,
it's been so long ago, that I think, it's yeah. The individuals that did try to
mm,
kill me, I'm sure they all read my book. The three that
mm,
are in prison right
mm.
now, I'm sure they all read my book because we
Yeah.
all got mutual friends and all this
Mm,
and that. And it's said in there, I forgive you. And that's one of the reasons I said that because I really don't hold any animosity,
mm,
because, really, even though that the last one, the AB thing was a fluke deal, I still
mhm.
had that reputation as a jacker. But being
Right.
that,
Yeah.
I watch because one of my fears is, in the beginning when I started my landscape business and I was like, give me all this, give me cash, give me cash, give me cash, give me cash. And so I would accumulate all this cash,
Mhm.
and I have it in safe, and then I would move it to another safe. And I move it to a different safe. And you know what I'm talking about? And all this because I was like, I'm driving around with Lamborghinis and
Yeah.
Mercedes with gold wheels and just all these expensive multi-$100,000 cars and stuff like that. I'm
Mhm.
like, this might not be good. People target people like me. I
Oh,
used to,
absolutely.
you know what I'm
Yes.
talking about? And I used to, and so I'm like, so I go spend it. Yeah, that'll be my excuse to go spend it on something dumber. And but anyways, but
Yeah.
now I don't take any more cash.
Yeah.
It's all
Good.
because I can't
Yeah.
pay my bills with cash. And in
That's
the beginning, I'm
right.
like, well, I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
save
Absolutely.
taxes, doing
Yeah.
it this way, but nah,
Mhm.
I'm only hiding it from myself. And so now I don't
Mhm.
really have any cash,
Yeah.
but
So there was another question too I wanted to ask about the dust ups and dragouts. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
obviously, you've been a bit of a bruiser, in your day. And
yeah.
I'm just curious now, like when you get into like conflict, at work with customers and stuff like that, do you find yourself sometimes like, oh my God, the old self would just love to reappear?
Yo, no, I gotta check myself because I'm
Mm-hmm.
quick. I'm real quick, even on the road today, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, especially down here, there's a lot of traffic
Yeah.
where we're at, and people are not respectful,
No.
and including myself, everybody's it's a big rat race, which and you get up in it and I gotta check myself because I've also got myself in a couple of situations, and you know what, even though I'm not doing drugs anymore,
Mm-hmm.
that doing one thing under the influence of anger
Yes.
will ruin your life. Because for
Absolutely.
me, I've
Mm-hmm.
got so many assault charges. I got so many, and the cop pulls up just like that cop the other day that pulled me over. He's
Yeah.
like, "Oh wow, man, I ran your record," and he's like, "Wow." The thing about it is if I was to get in any kind of situation with road rage or anything else,
Mm-hmm.
guess who's going to jail? I don't
Yeah.
care. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I
Yeah.
wrote a book. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did this. No, that ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, like more than likely, the other person's word is gonna be mine.
Yeah.
But again, I've got to check myself before I wreck myself
Yeah.
because I'll see my attitude because I've always been the type of I never ran from a conflict in prison, anywhere. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's fight. Let's do
Yeah.
it. You know what I'm talking about? And the thing about it is can't do that today.
Yeah.
And um
Just
but so yes, I've
just
got to check myself.
no more throwing bushes at Miguel though, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so even Miguel, me and him,
Yeah.
man, Miguel. He can speak no English. He's been with me four and
Mm-hmm.
a half years, and I think that was kind of a God thing,
Mm-hmm.
because we were a blessing to each other's life. But
Yeah.
we've got to the point where like we get a mutual respect for each other. In the beginning, it was. We would have it out, man, and like we was one customer's front yard one time, and we were throwing Yopon holly bushes at each other, and I'm looking around because I really wanted to fight this dude, you know what I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about? And because he was the one that started it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it takes two. It
Yeah,
takes
it
two.
takes two
But
for sure.
it takes two. And but I started looking around for Ring cameras and everything because I really, I'm thinking to myself,
Mhm.
somebody is going to call the police, to my, and
Yeah.
here we are, we're making, you know, multi hundreds of thousands of dollars a year a piece out here,
Mhm.
spatting like, idiots. You know what I'm talking about? Because
Yeah.
sometimes it's 104 degrees, 106 degrees. There's 10%
Mhm.
flare. Don't nobody, it's just not going to be,
Mhm.
don't anybody want to be out there,
Yeah.
and it gets aggravated. But yeah, and also one thing I got to learn and still today,
Mhm.
I got to check myself and
Yeah.
before I wreck myself
Yeah.
because I got too much to lose. I
Mhm.
got, and there's a lot of stuff that I would really like to, I see disrespectful stuff going on,
I
and I'm
know
like,
that's hard, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah,
Because now we're like the justice warriors. So it's hard to see that sometimes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just like today, I'm walking into Bucky's. I don't know if you ever heard of Bucky's, but there's a big gas station chain down here. It's like
Mhm.
huge, crazy.
Mhm.
And I mean, they probably got over 200 gas pumps at one gas station, and I see this guy in there eating a big old chicken leg in his car while the lady's pumping gas and doing all this other stuff, trying to manage the kids, pump gas. And I'm like, man, I just wanted to tell him, bro, get out and pump the gas, man. And it's like, it's none of my business. But anyways, yes, I
Yeah.
got to check myself because
Yeah.
I'm always trying to, in the old me, I would let it flow and I would
Yeah.
check somebody else or we'd get into a confrontation real quick because of my mouth. Because,
Mhm.
and I wasn't always in the right, but now
Mhm.
today, most of the time, I do have moral values and I'm
Yeah.
very respectful to people. Even
Yeah.
today, it's yes, sir, no, ma'am, yes, sir. And
Yeah.
I even have a hard time when people don't address other people like that,
Yeah. Agreed.
or kids, their mothers or
Please
fathers
and
or what.
thank you and you're welcome.
Yeah, or excuse me. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's just like I'm big and there was
Yeah.
more of that in prison, or
Mhm.
at least excuse me, there was a respect factor. So people will get their head knocked off if
Yeah. Yeah.
but so that's for me, man. And I try to carry myself like that. And I give people respect.
Mhm.
And if I don't get it in return,
Yeah.
and again, I was like, they just,
The
it's
big
not worth
breath,
it.
hey? Yeah.
I
The
got too much to lose. Your life,
yeah.
I tell myself, your life is good today.
Yeah.
You got
Well,
way too much to
I
lose.
love it that check yourself before you wreck yourself because
Yeah,
like they say if you give that 5-second pause that could like be the trajectory like for the rest
yes,
of your life, that 5-minute pause to make the right decision,
yeah,
in
yeah.
flipping
And there's so
somebody
many.
off
I
and
you see it on different instances, man. Just like that young 14-year-old that killed that other guy out
mm,
of anger,
yeah.
right? And another there was another one on the news down here. A guy came and killed two people in the hospital because of something, but it was out of anger. Now he's
Yeah.
sitting in jail wishing, "Yeah, I wish I wouldn't have done that. My whole life
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
runt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking
Hmm.
about?
Well,
Or
and
we
because
see
sorry, go ahead.
no, 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 you're fine. I
Okay.
was just there was a lady that spoke with me the other night
Mhm.
at the Salvation Army, and
Mhm.
she was cellmates with a lady that ran over her husband 6 times
Oh,
accidentally because she found
damn.
her husband. It was two dentists in
Mm,
Houston, Texas,
mhm.
and the one dentist found her husband cheating. Right, she ran over this guy 6 times.
Did
That
she
was
kill
definitely
him?
a crime of, huh?
Did she kill him?
Yeah, I think so. She was in prison, yeah,
Oh,
for like
wow.
life or whatever.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
you did that, but you know what I'm saying? You
Mhm.
would have been better off just leaving it and find somebody that's worth your, what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Again, you did it under
Yeah.
anger.
Well,
Anger will run your life.
anger is like one of the most powerful emotions. Shame is one of the most painful, but anger is the most powerful. And especially for men, because men have a hard time expressing their anger in a very safe and nurturing way because it's usually very explosive and it's scary,
Yeah.
right? But
And that's me.
they keep like pushing it down and they're not dealing with it. So then the volcano happens. And I'm
Yeah.
actually just recently started consulting with an ex-military guy. He was a 20-year combat soldier and he does work for penitentiaries as well, like the juveniles. And he's put a program together for correctional officers. And his number one modality is somatic, which is the emotions stuck in the body, and regulating the nervous system, which is like the anger, right? When we go into like that sympathetic nervous system, which is fight, flight, or freeze,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, I think what you said that I think anytime that anybody, including myself. And as a matter of fact, I probably need to start practicing the 5-second rule, maybe take 5 deep breaths and think about, is this really, it's like in cognitive intervention I learned while I was still in prison.
Yeah.
Um, is this going to benefit? I forgot exactly the words that he said. I wish I could contact that teacher too. And
Please do hook me up.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
no, I can find out because I
Yeah.
got a good friend of mine that got out, and he's out here right now. His
Mhm.
name's Damon, and he wrote a book called The Coffee Bean. And as a matter of fact, I
Oh,
just seen him
yes.
on the,
Mhm.
oh, this guy is killing it out there. And I'm talking about, he is not playing. He had got a 65-year sentence out of Dallas,
Mhm.
but he's the one that hooked me up with Alex Demchek, the guy that owns the book
Oh,
company.
the book. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he owns Streamline Books, who wrote
Okay.
those,
Mhm.
and or published it or whatever. But anyways, I say he's got a deep connection with the TDC, and he knows the exact teacher I'm talking about, so it
Mhm.
wouldn't be hard for me. But he was just
Yeah.
a real wise guy. In other words, he's like, is this going to benefit with the what I'm fixing to do right now? Because
Mhm.
it's all about choices, decisions, and then there's
Yeah.
consequences. Is this going to
Mhm.
benefit me in a good way, or is
Yeah.
this going to benefit me in the bad way?
Yeah.
And so it's that guy that I told you about. I met last night at the steakhouse or whatever. And and just like I was listening to a motivational speaker this morning
Mhm.
and on YouTube, and it's like, man, just sometimes, and I even preached this before I even, sometimes
Mhm.
doing the harder things in life are gonna make
Mhm.
your life easier. Whether it's
Yeah.
going to work, whether it's just doing the right thing
Yeah.
when you really, want to check somebody, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, and just, taking a deep breath and just, doing
Yeah.
the right thing. And it's hard sometimes,
Yeah.
but the
But
hard
choose
things,
your
well,
hard, right?
yeah, choose your
Because the
heart.
the consequences are hard
Consequences,
and the work to get better is hard, but choose your hard because they're
yeah.
both really hard,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
but
So
good
yeah,
on you.
because this
Yeah.
one's gonna have consequences and repercussions, and so is
Mhm.
this one, whether they're good or they're bad.
Yeah.
So choose your
Choose your
heart.
hard. So who is your favorite influential speaker? Do you know off the top of your head?
I honestly, I really never really listened to anyone before.
Yeah.
Um, my buddy Damon, his name's
Mhm.
Damon West, and if
I'm
you
going to
get a
write
chance,
that down.
no, yeah, check him out. And so I actually met him when I was on the Styles unit. He came
Mhm.
back in,
Mhm.
and he's out there killing it. We've hooked up. Me and Christy hooked up with him a while back when he was in
Mhm.
town. But this guy's speaking, I mean, 5, 6 days a week to these major corporations,
Mhm.
colleges, and everything else. But this morning I was listening to a guy named Les Brown,
Oh,
and
I love Les Brown.
yeah, that's who I
Yeah.
was, and
Yeah.
so, man, and I told myself I'm gonna start listening more and more
Mhm.
and more because I love the,
Mhm.
just the positiveness
Yeah.
of it all,
Yeah.
and I think about it is, just like every decision we make, what I'm saying? I mean, I personally do not like getting up and going to work every day.
Who
Yeah, well, some days
does?
I do. I do. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? But some days I
Mhm.
don't,
Yeah.
you know? And again, but you do, and you can stay
Yeah.
consistent with it. It makes your life easier over here.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, in the end, what I'm saying, your life is going to be harder over here because you didn't do the thing, you
Mhm.
didn't stay disciplined, you didn't
Yeah.
put in the work, you didn't do all this, you didn't do all, what I'm talking about, the things that you need to do to make your life easier. If you take the
Yes.
shortcut, you
Yeah.
don't go to work, guess what? You're not gonna have no money, or you're not gonna, for me personally, I'm not productive, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
talking
the
about, I
same
don't
way.
like,
Yeah.
I've got to feel productive
Yeah.
in order. My days off, sometimes it's not good. When I
Mhm.
have 2 or 3 days off and I'm not being productive, I see my personality and attitude change a little bit. And I
Mhm.
realize this now because I want to learn about what makes me click up here,
Yeah.
and so I know staying productive is a good
Mhm.
thing for me,
Yeah. But I mean, but when you were growing up as a kid, you were full throttle.
Oh, I was
Right. And
full
that's the
throttle.
thing is like that's innate in you. It's innate in me as well. I don't feel good either if I'm just not doing it. I am not one to sit around and like binge Netflix. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
very rarely will I ever do something like that. I got to be physically active. I like to be doing stuff too. And
yeah,
some people will say, oh, that's a trauma response, busy being busy. And I'm like, well, I'm not hurting anybody. You know what I mean? I'm doing something
yeah,
good. I'm making achievements. I do know when to rest though, as long as you know when to rest and take care of yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jason. We're probably going to wrap this up, but before I
Okay.
let you go, I do want you to just say one more thing. And that day when you got out of jail and you checked your Facebook message, something really good happened.
Oh, you
Yeah.
talking about with Christy? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, and so me and Christy have been together, I guess, 4.5 years now,
Mhm.
and we known each other in high school, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, she's an important part of my life now, and
Yeah.
so um, God has done some amazing things for me and put people in my
Mhm.
life, that helped me along the way, and I
Yeah.
believe it was all predestined or however you want to say it. It was all
Yeah.
God's plan and all
Yeah.
God's
Yeah.
timing. And like I said, I didn't start my life till I was 44 years old, and
Mhm.
got with her beautiful wife.
She's well, I
Yeah,
have to say she's absolutely stunningly beautiful, and she must have a huge heart,
she
and
does. She has a
Jason, you deserve it. You deserve
thank you so
every
much.
single bit of this. So really
Oh,
just roll in it and just really like you're doing such amazing work. So and I feel extremely honored to have met you, and
uh,
I am in your corner cheering you on.
and vice
So
versa.
yeah. So
Yeah.
let's keep in touch, and I'll
So, listen, if
mhm.
you ever need any content, or I know a lot of people with some amazing stories. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh yes, yes,
Oh yeah,
please.
no, for real.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, and
yeah,
because, yeah, I do.
yeah,
And so if you, ever, want some more people that's kind of got
mhm,
similar stories to ours, and even more
yeah,
so, God reached out to me the other morning.
mhm,
Yeah, I guess it was about 4 days ago. I spoke to him. Did 26 years flat in Texas prison, got his case overturned,
wow.
and he's starting a landscaping business. And
Oh,
but
nice.
it's just like Damon too. Like
Mhm,
he is out there killing it, and
yeah,
like today is his 8 years ago today he walked out of prison. But
mhm,
I was just looking at his Facebook post a while ago.
yeah,
He's in Lexington, Kentucky, speaking to the inmates, the
wow.
girls and the
I love
guys.
it. Yeah,
And he's powerful,
yeah.
and he was one of the ones that motivated me to, tomorrow.
Excellent.
So he
Yeah.
pretty much told me that I had a story to tell, just like I'm telling other people now, just like I want the
Mhm,
people that I'm telling to tell the other
yeah.
people, and it's a trickle effect, and
It is
it's
a trickle effect. You're absolutely right. And it's funny because, and I already said this to you the other day, but my next guest, Seb Lavoie, was part of the ERT, the emergency response team. And we're not quite sure of the timelines, and we're not going to actually investigate the timelines, but there is a good possibility that he was part of the SWAT team that went through my doors.
oh wow,
And it's funny because we've come full circle,
yeah,
and it
you
reminds
need to
me
write
of
a
the
book.
the arresting officer that came up to you and Christy in the Home Depot parking lot too,
Yeah.
and said, "Hey, I've been following you," and just he said he wanted to tell you how proud he was, and man, like my that I cried. That's the part I cried. I was like, "Wow, that's so
And
powerful."
you know what's so crazy that that guy took his life just a while
Oh
back. Yeah, yeah, he took
no!
his life. Yeah, and he was just dealing
Oh
with a lot of demons, and just and he was just the
damn!
biggest hearted guy, man. It was just like yeah, yeah. His name was
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, well,
Officer
God
Shane
bless his
Cannon.
soul. That's sad, because now that I'm in contact with some ex law enforcement and military guys, this is not uncommon.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
so it's funny because I was really thinking my work was going to be penitentiaries only, but now all of
yeah,
a sudden I have law enforcement and military gravitating towards me, and they're all speaking their truths and their stories now too.
yeah. That's
So
cool.
here we are
That's
in a
good.
big pool.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
just donated to a sheriff's a guy that's running for sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
I donated to his campaign. And it's
Oh
just like it
wow.
felt so. He was actually the U.S. Marshal that was on my case. So
Mm-hmm.
so when that guy that come to the house and put that gun under my head, pulled the trigger, 2 days later, that same gun that jammed, he
Mm-hmm.
shot at the U.S. Marshal. The U.S. Marshal shot him with an AR-15 and partially paralyzed him. Right. So that
Wow.
same U.S. Marshal is the one
Mm-hmm.
that's running for sheriff now that I donated to his
Oh.
campaign.
Is
So
that the
it's
guy
just
in is that the guy in the picture? in
Yeah, that as a matter of fact, it is.
oh
It's yeah, yeah, yeah. And so that picture of me with all the law
yeah, yes,
enforcement and the
yes,
sheriff
yeah.
and all that, that was at a speaking engagement. I spoke to there's like 500-600 kids in at a high school, and he
Wow.
invited me there,
Yeah,
and he actually just hooked me up with another speaking engagement, but just a good guy, and
yeah.
it's funny because I'm friends with a lot of law enforcement that,
Mhm,
when I was in the Kaufman County Jail for 18
mhm,
months, I became friends with like everybody, all the officers in there,
mhm,
you
mhm.
know,
Yeah,
and they were just cool, and they just, I think they can recognize a good person when they see one, and vice versa.
yeah, yeah,
It don't matter,
yeah.
to me. I don't,
That's one
good.
thing too, when I was in the thick of it, like, yeah, I might have ran and hid from the law. However, I still had a lot of respect for them. I had to take accountability. I'm the one breaking the
Yeah,
law. I have a chance of being arrested here. And there was actually an undercover officer that was interrogating me, that at that time I wasn't quite aware of what he was actually doing, but he was planting seeds. And he was
yeah,
actually explaining to me the nervous system, about how I was addicted to adrenaline. And and it was the same as him chasing the bad guys. The same feeling was running from the
yeah,
law enforcement, and just this. And I wish I knew his name, because I would reach out to him and thank him,
yeah,
because
yeah,
now I put the pieces together, and he really was trying to make a difference in my
yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah.
Right. So yeah, and
There's a lot of them
it's
out there. So there's
beautiful.
some good people. Yeah,
Yeah. And and they really risk a lot too. Hey, like,
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
oh
I mean,
man.
that's a dangerous job, especially this day and
Mhm.
age.
Yeah.
And I understand, like, you never know what you're getting into. When
Yeah.
you pull up to a suspect, or now I
Yeah.
kind of understand.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, especially with dealing with drug addicts and stuff, because addicts and ex-cons are probably the most dangerous, especially people that got the parole violations and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That's a dangerous individual to mess with because they're
Yeah.
so desperate.
There's
You know
so
what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
there's a sense of urgency, and they are
Yeah,
desperate, and a lot of them are tweaking out so bad they don't even
yeah.
know, right? So
They don't
it's
know.
yeah. Well, it's a beautiful story. Ah, my heart is full. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Jason.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have to do this again sometime.